Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu.
Well, hello. Welcome everyone to the show today. And as we're preparing for Easter Sunday, sending nothing but divine blessings to everyone. This is your host, Flex Moore, here at the Quantum Med. And we are just basically here to touch base with each and every one of you to let you guys know that we're extremely excited to literally see have this guest that we have on the show today. And a lot of my colleagues have been asking me this question, like, "Yo, Flex, like, who is this Chris guy? And tell me about him. And what's going on with him?" And I was like, "Well, listen, Chris is an amazing person." And so, and they were like, "Okay, who is he?" So I got to tell you who Chris is. So, guys, I'm going to introduce you real quick. We have a special guest here today, and I'm going to introduce Chris Durek. Chris, welcome to Quantum Med.
Thank you, Flex. It's an honor. I wish I had shades as cool as yours to come. But it's I'm gonna have to just use my eyes.
I get it. Fantastic. So, listen, Chris. Thank you. You know what I mean. For naturally for joining us today. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and all of our listeners out here, they want to know a little bit more about you, who you are, book author and all these things. So why don't you go ahead and let's tell all of our audience here a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here.
Sure.
My name is Chris Cirak. As Flex mentioned, I'm an author, speaker, consciousness coach, entrepreneur. Spent my life in launching projects and channeling ideas and trying to bring them into fruition and bring them to life. And my path has followed me and brought me here. So this is an exciting place to be.
Well, it is exciting. And, that's a beautiful thing. So the excitement is real. And, the fact that, that, we're here live, Chris, and naturally you being an author, this is an amazing, time to be an author, right? I tell people, like, during the pandemic, everyone had this opportunity to really tap into the creative state of consciousness, right? So as we tap into that creative Christ-like consciousness, what a perfect time to write a book, right?
Yes.
Okay. So absolutely. So, because this, is such a, a creative time to write a book. You're a conscious coach. You're an entrepreneur. So why don't we go ahead? Let's tap into some of the books that you've written.
Okay. Yeah. So my big main one is BU, the Journey of Self-Realization. And yes, so it was the end of 2019, 2020. I used that time. It was downtime for a lot of other things, like you mentioned, the busy parts of life, to focus on this piece. And it really was an extension of my own journey, as is everything. Is like, the question I get asked often is, how did you arrive here? That's the cover of the book right there. Thank you.
Right.
Like, well, life brought me here, just like life brings all of us to where we are. And it's the challenges that we overcome that then make us experts in those things, to help and shine the light and maybe inspire others. And so often we're like in this mindset, shifting from the blame and why me mindset to the blessing mindset is, yes, these challenges, these obstacles, by figuring them out, we get to learn who we are and what we're made of. But even more importantly, we then become role models, authorities in overcoming those obstacles. And then, we all have our own voice, our unique perspective and spin on things. So there's no two messages are alike. We should never be held back by, oh, this is already out there, or that's a comparative mental mindset. And the mind will always, try to criticize and self-criticize. And so it's just, express yourself in the way you are most authentically, be you. And the rest just flows from there. Ease, trust, confidence, just, a deeper connection to what is happening, because the place where we can be ourselves is in the present moment. It's not in
Right.
our head and projecting, comparing, and outside voices telling us we should be this or do that. But it's when we're responding to a situation connected to what's happening, and we feel like, does this resonate with me or does it not resonate with me? And then we go from there. And that resonance is not, the head. I always say the mind is the home of knowledge, but it's not the source of wisdom. So the
Right.
wisdom has to come from within. That's our intuition, our higher self, gut, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, absolutely. Wow, that's great. So I like when you say like the wisdom comes from within, right? Okay, but as we gain wisdom and knowledge, we're able to expand, that consciousness to others and expand that knowledge, right? And that wisdom. I used to always like, go to my elders and sit around all my elders, and people are like, what are you doing, Flex? Well, I'm actually literally sitting with my elders because I want to tap in to their knowledge and the wisdom that they actually have, because with that I wouldn't be who I am today without my elders, providing me that knowledge and wisdom, to come into my better being, is what you say, right? Okay. And that's incredible. Yeah. Now, did you write the book here, Chris, in the States, or were you out in the States? Were you in the
Oh,
woods? I mean, tell me, what happened. A lot of people, they write books, and like they go like camping, they go in the woods, they go on retreats, they go to Costa Rica, they go to all these different places. Tell all of our listeners, where you were.
yeah, this is so, that's a great question. It's an intuitive question. So I was actually in Greece at an Eckhart Tolle retreat. I've been volunteering for his organization for years, and afterwards, I just felt this calling to. This was after the tourist season. Place of the Aegean Sea. All those little islands were quiet. The party scene has its place, but at this point in my life, I was interested in just quiet time, me time, and having beaches to myself, and so forth. And so I went. I just felt called to go out and spend some time on one of the islands, and outside Santorini and Eos and some of these smaller ones, and more known ones. And it was basically, I had the whole island to myself, me in the Jeep, and a couple of weeks of reserves. And I was just there to journal. But very quickly, it dawned on me that what I was writing, it ultimately it was becoming, it was taking all the things I had absorbed, just like you were sitting with your elders. I had absorbed, every book and seminar, and I was known as a retreat junkie to my friends to go to all the different places. Brian Weiss, regressions, inner child healing, tapping, EMDR. I've explored everything. I went to Bali for a couple of months and took meditation classes, every form under the sun, and to see what resonated, what spoke to me. And so all of this learning and absorbing now started to emerge as my own voice, my own spin, my own, the healing that came through that was captured in the way I was describing it. So my writing started there on that island in Greece, and then it was almost a year and a half, almost 2 year process to completion.
That's
That's
Oh,
about.
wow. It literally took you 2 years to actually finish the book. Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of it's 260 page. It's not a light read, and really what inspired me was two things. In my own journey, I had always struggled with language, with the vocabulary that, the law of attraction and Abraham and all these. I wanted the wisdom, but I didn't understand. I couldn't get past the language. It was like a barrier, and so I wanted to write something where the language didn't get in the way of wisdom.
Right.
And so just formulating these, deep thoughts as in very pedestrian terms. It took
Right.
wordsmithing. Like the greatest art piece is like, think of an ice block. It's a sculpture is taking away from the mass till you arrive at kind of the simplicity of it. And that simplicity is beautiful and accessible. So that was one thing, the language. And the other thing was discoverability. I didn't, I'm like many, I'm probably not going to read a whole book just to find a little chapter that applies to me that I needed to hear at that moment. I wanted to be able to jump in and out and watch short clips and this and that. So the book is 52 chapters of very quick reads about every area of life. So you can and should read it front to back. I mean, you'll get the whole buildup of the notion of it. but the essence of jumping in, and I need to, I've got a toxic family issue. Like, what can I, what are the reminders? What can I look up about that? And, or,
Right.
relationship or abundance and so forth. So it's easy to jump in and out.
I think we lost him, but we're going to keep going.
All right.
The fun part about being on Zoom. Well,
Yes.
one
These
thing
things
that
happen.
I'll ask you a question.
Yes.
In your journey, because a lot of people when they write, write books or other novels or whatever, there's always seeking their own truth or seeking their own questions for their own journey. What was one of your questions that you found out by writing these books?
Well, I've always been, I'm a researcher by nature. I'm a perfectionist by nature, and so I really didn't want to leave any stone unturned in my beingness. So part of why it took a while was to, and it was many, 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 many years in the making. I didn't know I was going to write a book about it yet, but the process of self-discovery and so forth, it's a journey, and it never ends either. But I think I really wanted to understand how life works. What is behind all of this? The design, or I didn't even know if there was a design, and so
Right.
really looking into every part of me until there was clarity there. And sometimes I would come across a concept, and then I would pace in my living room for 20 minutes, half an hour, just absorbing, thinking, letting thinking knowledge, but letting it sink into the body, and then waiting for the wisdom, the bits of wisdom, the nuggets to arise that I could then continue writing.
Incredible. The fact that you actually wrote a book, 260 pages, I want everyone to really acknowledge the hard work that what it takes to actually get the download, to put everything, what your thought, your processes, all on paper and in a book. It's incredible. So, the fact that you did that and was a true blessing, and your book has been, a tremendous impact, to, people globally all over the world, to the point where people have reached out to you for conscious coaching and just really understanding not just your story and your journey, but how it's helped them overcome, okay, and get them to a higher place of consciousness, to elevate their frequency, to elevate their vibration, so that they are actually tapped into this divine light and truly understand their identity and who they are. Incredible.
Well, thank you. Those are super kind words. Yes. I mean, one of the big kind of takeaways it comes up again and again is that this outcome driven orientedness, we're conditioned to set a goal of something we think will lead to happiness, and then kind of working backwards from this. What do I need to do to get there? And what happens is we wind up living for the future, and we're kind of compromising things now, and we're in total resistance to what's happening, because it doesn't match this idea of what needs to happen to get to a certain point. So we're
Right.
never looking for the now, we're always in the present. And so that that disconnect from, as we mentioned earlier, is to not be able to hear your own voice, then your inner voice, what resonates and what doesn't. You're not responding to circumstances anymore. Instead, you're steering circumstances. You're trying to control life, and good luck with that.
Right. Because you can't control life. Number one is because you have no control. What you do have is your ability to really tap into your higher state of consciousness, vibration, and frequency, and going with the flow, understanding that the universe is infinite, that you've been called with true blessings of bliss, to be able to go out here in humanity and serve as a pilot light, and tap into your inner light and expand that light and frequency to the masses, right?
Yeah.
As I tell people, you speak truth through your throat chakra. And so these individuals actually understand that you are who you say that you are. You're confirming who you are, your identity. You're owning up to your identity, which is great.
Yes. Yeah. And that's beautiful too. And one of the keywords that jump out is, serving. There's often this idea of, what is a true calling? How do you discover, how do you know what you're supposed to do? And it's kind of that same trap of thinking, you want something because it'll make you feel a certain way. And what happens is, you're led by usually ecstasy, or I'm going to be happy once I do this, once I achieve this. And that's not usually what a true calling is about. To use myself as an example, I'm very introvert. I've never done well, speaking publicly, and there's all kinds of parts of me that had to grow and step up to be able to fill this role and fill these shoes. And so the way to identify when something is a true calling and it's coming from within is that there's a sense of reluctance about it. You're not doing it for the glory. You're not doing it for the fame. You're not doing it for appreciation and acknowledgement. All these things, these are kind of mental concepts and future states. And that's kind of when you know that you're not really doing something from within. You're led by outside, conditioning and outside voices and these imprints. But you kind of do realize that you're meant to do something when there's a reluctance about it, because that calling always entails a call to grow into that role, to become that authority, or that figure, that role model. And you're not born that way. You have to do the work, the inner work, to get there. And so a calling always kind of it calls you to leave your comfort zones and become who you're really meant to be.
Absolutely, which is extremely incredible. So why don't you tell all of our listeners a little bit about, the entrepreneurship ventures and what you've done, and let them know, what are you doing as an entrepreneur, and tell me some of the companies that you've actually started.
Yeah. So I've been, this is a game I like to play with I've been teaching at UCLA Extension for over 10 years, design thinking, creative classes. And one of the games I play is and I'm patting myself on the shoulder, but over time things add up and experience adds up. So, it's a natural result. I'm not special, so I play the game of name an industry that I haven't participated in. And as a consultant and agency owner and interactive designer, design thinker, and corporate executive coach, and so forth, you touch over time, you become a subject matter expert in all these different areas. So I've pretty much launched companies, either my own, where I was in leadership, or helped others. I mean, dozens, 16 or 17 of my own. It's a lot, but over 25 plus years, and then but helped other companies do the same. So you name it, I've done it. Everything from healthcare to technology to automotive. I was Mr. Automotive in the early 2000s, where I did all the car configurators and all the emerging technology of the emerging web, and data backend administration, ad serving technologies, and a lot of customer experience. So the essence, the principles of mindfulness are really in the customer service experience. So in order to design the best CX, you have to be good at listening. You have to empathize. You have to research. You have to observe. You have to be curious. You have to have a state of awe and wonder. This is how you discover the unmet need that you're then going to design and build and launch a product around, or a service. But without those qualities, you're just kind of designing from yourself and your own experiences. And the designer should never be the target audience. So I hope that was insightful.
I was extremely insightful, and for all of our listeners out there, is tremendous. I mean, just you elaborated on the scope of what it actually takes, and that's great. And it's just tremendous success with all those organizations that you work with. So tell them a little bit about the companies that you work with now, or currently, or that you still either own or have equity in, so our listeners know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So one that comes to mind that's it's really exploded over the last few years is a travel nursing and medical assistant service called Wanderly, wanderly.us. Check it out. It's really come to the forefront in the last couple of years of being able to shift on short notice, hospital staff to the locations, to the areas where they're most needed. And that's allowed to hospitals to operate at maximum capacity without having the maximum overhead. So that's a fun one. Others that come to mind are I continue to consult in the automotive industry. There's difficult franchise laws that make movement there difficult, but with technology and now everyone's shifting to EV, that there's a lot that can be done there, and also the laws around it are changing.
Elaborate a little bit what you're doing in the automotive industry. Are you doing it for dealers? You're doing it for corporations? Elaborate to our listeners what you actually do for the automotive industry.
Sure. I mean, if you go back to TrueCar, which was originally named Zag in 2005, so I was one of the first 10, I think employee number 6 or 7 to help get that off the ground. And I'm an early venture type of person where I love to ideate, I love to channel and draw from the widest net possible before things go into maintenance and kind of management mode later down the road. I'm that early phase guy, first year or two, to get things off the ground and get it really aligned and capture the essence of what the need is of the marketplace, and be able to pivot to the marketplace. Because even your greatest idea is only as good as your team and your team's ability to pivot when market conditions change. Because all ideas, they don't exist in a vacuum. They come from, we're pulling from the same creative place, right? And so if you're having an idea somewhere on the planet or other planets, you can be sure that somewhere somebody else is having the same idea, just because we're all connected, right? So then who executes best, who's most flexible, who can pivot, who can adjust and strike the right deals at the right time.
That's incredible, man, and extremely impressive. TrueCar, right? Wow, that's incredible. So let's go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about what your background is in conscious coaching, how many clients you have, things of that nature.
Sure. So I've been actively conscious coaching for the last 5 years. As I said before, the applying mindfulness practice to the marketplace, to companies in executive leadership and service design and product design, that was the previous 25 plus years. So it's all kind of connected. It's just the conscious coaching really delves into the individual, into the personal development more than I did before. And the positive effects of that are tremendous across the board. So it's not just your workplace performance, but it's your creativity in life. It's problem solving. It's the ability to respond to circumstances. Your ability to be confident that you have the tools, you have everything you need to be able to respond to any situation that presents itself. This idea of having to plan and think through of like what could happen, trying to imagine the scenarios beforehand, it's not a productive and fruitful way to go, and it's just not very effective, because you can't imagine all the permutations that life can show up as. So developing that trust and that skill set of like, I am who I am, I have my connection to my inner voice that will respond to each situation, and know that I'm a facilitator and a co-creator of that situation. The situation isn't independent and separate from us. We're seeing it, we're experiencing it as a reflection of who we are. The person standing right next to us, exact same situation, is going to have their own take based on their own internal makeup. So it's important to understand that the situation is a reflection of ourselves and our self-knowledge. And the better we know ourselves, the more aware we are of ourselves, the better we're able to respond to the situation. And the number one tool to be able to respond to the situation is to have your connection to your sensations, meaning being able to feel your feelings instead of reacting to them. So there's a big difference there. So we think we're feeling our feelings, we go through daily life and we have these feelings, but no, those are primarily reactions to feelings. And when we react to things, both positively and negatively, it's not just negative reactions, that reactivity leads to those feelings getting stuck. And they get stuck and they grow and they fester, and then they just make life even harder, because then we react even more severely next time around. And most importantly, when we're in this reactionary state, we're not thinking clearly. When we approach others, they feel threatened or confrontation. ensues, and so it's just not a good place for wisdom to enter the equation, this reactive state. And as we mature, we all kind of realize, darn it, why am I reacting? Why am I, I wish I didn't react to something. It could be as simple as a driver on the street cutting you off, and we're stewing in this reactivity long after the actual event, and we spent the whole rest of the day affected by this, and not able to shake it. So to come out of this reactivity impacts everything we do in life positively: our workplace performance, our creative problem solving, our personal relationships, our ability, let's talk about abundance. Oh my goodness. To not be in resistance to what is happening is to be in receiving mode. I could go on and on about this. That could be its own topic for next time.
Absolutely. And this is like, what I mean? Like amazing just hearing this. And, like I tell everyone, and, everyone I ever meet, I always tell everyone that you need a coach. Okay, everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a conscious coach, because you don't win championships without a coach. Okay? And Michael Jordan didn't win without a coach. Tom Brady didn't win without a coach. Kobe Bryant didn't win without a coach. Everyone needs a consciousness coach. Now, the reason why we say consciousness is a simple fact, is because we have to elevate you. And once your consciousness becomes awake, you become a leader because you're awake. Leadership, to me, leadership and consciousness are really two different things. You could be a leader and have the ability to lead, but if you're leading in ego and you're not conscious, then you're being totally disruptive to your organization. You're disruptive to the individuals that you meet, because you're not coming at a place of spirit and understanding and true empowerment.
That's right.
And so the importance of empowerment, understanding who you are, your identity, and elevating your consciousness is the best thing that you can ever do. You know what I mean? For yourself. And so many people just really need to realize how to actually get yourself to that next level. And it's beautiful that you're doing this through your work and your clients and things of this nature, and transformations. Why don't you give us a testimony of like a CEO or somebody that, has gone through, a huge transformation?
Well, huge transformations happen slowly over time. So, I can't say that there's a miracle solution. What's important is that conscious coaching is a reminder of all the little things that happen all day long, because that's where we discover ourselves, in those little things. It's not these big breakthroughs can happen, but they tend to happen as an accumulation of lots of little insights about yourself. And then, suddenly you kind of have a big dawning, but it really came as a result of doing all the small work. And so, I've worked with many, both in education and private sector, executives who are aware, and they're aware of much of what we're talking about here. But you need the practical tools, and so a good coach a consciousness coach will have the ability to reflect back without injecting themselves into the conversation. So a good consciousness coach is able to mirror the other person speaking, hearing, and talking, and their essence coming back to them, so that they can experience themselves hearing, speaking, and talking. If the coach is injecting themselves, even just in their heads, in their minds, that adding judgment to the mirror effect, it diminishes, and the other person can sense that. The quality of attention dips. So a good consciousness coach will give you that quality of attention to really experience yourself in your essence. And from there, really, it's never about specific, offering specific solutions. Most of the time, the person I'm working with will have their own insights, because really that's where the insights have to come from. They have to come from within themselves, because they are their own person. They have their own unique makeup and their own internal energy dynamic. So an outside person can never replace that, but they can unlock it. And so a good consciousness coach will do just that.
unlocking it is totally the key, you know, and to getting these people to actually be able to understand and tap into their infinite divine of who they are in their being, in their essence, which is incredible. And everything that you're talking about, you know, is right on and it's right aligned as well. So you also have like an athletic background. Why don't you tell everyone, you know, what you do from an athletic standpoint? Because I know you spend a lot of time on a tennis court. A lot of people don't know that.
That's true. Growing up, I played every single sport under the sun, and then I finalized. Same thing with music, by the way. I just played every. It was just like that. I wanted to experiment and explore everything, and I had a great home, parents who supported that, and but eventually I found the thing that really stuck. And for me in the sports arena, it was tennis. So I'm a religious tennis player. So much of movement is connected to consciousness. It's important to understand. You could sit on the couch and do breath work and do tapping and EMDR and just meditate or sit in silence all you want. It's not until you actually bring movement into the equation, which could just be as simple as going for a walk. If you've ever been to a meditation center, they have walking paths, which is where you go and really start to process and release the things that you kind of came to the surface through the breath work and meditation. So the movement is always important. If I don't get to move regularly, I can feel the stuckness, the antsiness, and tennis is my beautiful preferred outlet for that.
So like that's incredible. So I know that you got me on a tennis court. And
Yes,
I was like, oh,
we
man,
did. Yes, we went out there one time.
this guy can play tennis. And I was like, wow. I was one. I thought I should have watched some McEnroe or something like that.
I hope if I'm from like the newer generation.
All video.
Yeah.
Venus and Serena. I need to watch the movie all over again. But
there you go.
The Will Venus and Serena. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to I can't watch it anymore.
Well, you were great out there. I mean, you have your own sports background and just all-around athletic ability. So I remember those drop shots.
Oh yeah, okay. Fantastic. So listen, now the fact that Chris, that you joined up, with Quantum Med, and I know Quantum Med is extremely, excited, to have someone with your skill level and just your knowledge and wisdom, and the impact that you're actually, having with just corporations alone is tremendous. And the scope and everything that's coming, to play here is just great. So, as long as we are continuously, doing all this stuff and thriving on the abundance that we're doing, we're going in this huge direction of shift, right? And the shift is, to get to the masses, it's not individuals. To get to the masses, we got to get to the corporations. We actually have to do true wellness. And true wellness is being able to offer everything underneath one umbrella, and that's what Quantum Med does. So that's why, organizations are outsourcing their corporate wellness initiatives to Quantum Med, because, wow, they could relieve stress. They could lower your cholesterol. They can, give you brain balance, deep relaxation. They can expand your consciousness. They can increase your mental clarity. They can do higher awareness. They can increase creativity, peak performance, clear your cellular memory, reduce shock, trauma, all these different issues and benefits that they bring to the table. So when you're bringing this to corporate America, increasing net profits, who wouldn't want to utilize the corporate wellness program like that? And who wouldn't want to do a design like that? So because of that simple fact that we are doing something of that magnitude, who wouldn't want to do something like this? It's just great, right? So the corporate wellness and everything we're doing is all about it is phenomenal thing. So extremely excited, to be able to have, this going on in corporate wellness initiatives and everything else, which is great.
Yes. And that's really, I'm excited that my path led me here and to be part of this, just because it's time for it to, hit the big screen, the big time, and be part of the fabric of society and not just kind of something you do on a Thursday night when you go take a yoga class.
Absolutely. Totally get it. You know what I mean? So when people talk about that, they're like, yoga? All right, what's yoga? Okay, and then we tell them yoga. Yeah, you can go yoga. You can have an instructor. What's non-yoga? What's breath work? What does all this stuff mean, right? So it's kind of funny. I had a doctor who works with a pediatrician. She's works with kids, right? She works with them in the intensive care. So as this person works with the kids, you know what I mean, in the intensive care, this is what they do. She literally says, "I don't understand how, okay, how on earth that I'm able to impact and come even more into my. I'm so stressed and overwhelmed. I'm in New York. Dan, help me." I was like, "Yes, I can. Lay here." Okay, I laid her on a sound bed. I gave her a 15-minute session of energy clearing, which unlocked all 144 of her chakras. So she's never ever experienced it. Now, this is a doctor, okay, that treats kids. You know what I mean? And because this doctor treats kids and children, she has never ever understood what her chakras were. So can you imagine what she would know if she energetically knew the chakras of every child and what's going on energetically, and she was more in tune with herself, how much more impact that she can have as a professional? So I sat down with her. I did a consultation. I counseled her for about a good hour. She was amazed. She was blown away. Wants to sign up for conscious coaching. And she's like, "I never knew this existed." I was like, "Well, there's a lot of things that people don't know exist until you get the knowledge and the wisdom to awaken yourself and consciousness to what's out here and what is happening." Okay. And so those are one of the things that's extremely important. And I was like, wow, that was a prime example of you taking someone who's had probably 1,500 kids. Now imagine if she was prayed over them before she actually did that. Imagine what that would look like, right? Totally incredible.
Oh, it's so incredible. It sounds there there might be some old energy out there, attitudes around, well, you're just, being selfish, working on yourself. But no, it's the love for oneself that we can then spread to others. You can't love somebody if you can't love yourself, and you can't be patient with somebody if you're not patient with yourself, and you can't be giving and generous with somebody, and forgiving with somebody if you're not those qualities towards yourself. So it all begins with self, and that's what makes a better world, better society.
I tell everybody this all the time: better world, better society, better humanity,
Yes.
right? So at the end of the day, we have universal law, right? Okay, and then you have biblical law, right? So like then you have these principles of things that people have created, that man has created, right? So man, because has created all these things, they've created things out of ego. But a man who is not awakened consciously has the same intellect and IQ of a mosquito. Imagine that, right? So I'm not trying to call men mosquitoes, but I'm speaking truth. Okay. So a mosquito goes goes for the blood. He's precise. Okay. A man is undecisive. Okay. Not knowing which way to go, left, right. Am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this, etc. Right. So imagine when you become decisive, you understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to create, and that you're here to build humanity, that you're here to help everyone have a better life, a better consciousness, a better place to live, a roof over their head, more food, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But we're not here, okay, to claim things of territory that you don't even have. How can you even have a war? Okay. And be so unhumane to earth and unhumane to society and the people of this planet by doing something like that off of your own selfish ego, thinking that you have a territory or have rights of entitlement to something that you never owned when you were born ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that, right? It's crazy when you think about it like that, but that's speaking truth. And I know that resonates with a lot of our listeners out there, that we should never have any form of war ever. We all should be able to go to all different countries and visit and share this beautiful vibration of divine love and light and peace We shouldn't be impacted and controlled on whether we can get into a country and, and expand on that. These are the things that we need to be able to understand and tap into to be able to move humanity forward and to be awakened. So those who are in power call themselves leaders to be, I would challenge them and say, expand your consciousness, be a humane, loving soul, and lead in the spirit and empower and uplift the people. And once you do that, nothing but beautiful things happen. It's like, Chris, like when you share love or you share light or anything like that, it is amazing, right?
Yes, it's our common humanity, right? We all have that in common, and it's all the other thoughts of the illusion of ownership and accumulation and those things, material things that create separateness. The labeling, it's deeply ingrained in us. The judging of things, when we judge things, both positive and negatively, right? Ultimately, any judgment is judging, and what it does is create separateness. It's distance, and we go through all day long. We say, I like this, I don't like that, I agree with this, I disagree with this, and so this is constant judging, a stream of mental activity, and with each judgment, we're saying the thing that I agree with is over there, and I'm over here. That's separateness. The thing I disagree with, it's over there, and I'm over here. These are little hits of separateness, of not being one, not being connected. And so we do this all day long, thousands of times. And that's why that's that mental lens, living through the mental lens, creates this sense of separateness, of separation. And only from that place can we harm others. Can we do unto them that we would never do unto ourselves, that we can harm nature and the planet and so forth, because we think we're separate from it. That common humanity and the trust and the confidence in life and the love of life and the flow of life and the abundance of life. Everything is there. If we just believe a few things, a few slivers, that's what limits our experience of life. And that's when we think there's scarcity and we start to believe in all of that. So the humanity that's inside of us, we all share, and it's all about tapping into that to have us come together.
It's all about tapping into the humanity and, and everything else that we have going on. So one of the things I wanted to share with everyone, Chris, man, you've been an outstanding guest today. And personally, I want to thank you. I opened it up, to anyone that has any questions, feel free to call in. And if you want to reach Chris, you can reach him also at 561-270-2127. You can also send him an email, Chris at, quantummed.io. Schedule a session with this guy. He is a phenomenal consciousness coach. And I encourage everyone, to be able to have this type of individual in person on board. And I want to thank all of our listeners out there today who have joined in and listened to us here at Quantum Med. And hopefully you guys will learn something, reach out and get our books. But we're going to end the show, right now. And we're going to send nothing but divine love and light and high vibrational consciousness to everyone out there in humanity. And let you guys know that we love you dearly. And we're going to see you next Friday for another dynamic Quantum Med show. And join the Quantum Med team. There's corporations out there. Reach out to Chris, who heads up a lot of the corporate wellness initiatives. So please feel free to reach out to him if you're a corporate leader. So he can explain to you what some of those programs are, so we can go ahead and move forward from there. Does that make sense?
That's beautifully put.
Hey, it makes sense to me, man. So it's beautiful. So thank you all, and thank you for joining the Quantum Med show today, and we'll see you guys next week. It's been a pleasure. Divine love and light and blessings to all of you. Love you.